Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode here on InicioSMP. We're here in this little area that I built live on stream. If you want to catch me building live and sit and yap with me, you can catch me at Bogwitch Sophie on Twitch. But enough shameless plugging. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about simple, basic interior tips and tricks. Let's take a look at the inside, shall we? Alrighty, now that we're inside, I have 3 basic tips and tricks for you, and an extra bonus one. The extra bonus one is planning. When you're planning interiors, try to make sure that you have a good idea of the floor plan you want to use, and don't be afraid to stand in the area when it's still a giant box or a giant square or whatever shape it is. Don't be afraid to spend a little time just standing in it, just looking around, getting a sense of your surroundings. And you may notice that all of a sudden walls will start popping up in front of you and ideas for where you're going to put different little areas like the kitchen and dining room or the entryway area. Once you have a basic floor plan idea set out, you'll be able to go through and use these tips and tricks to hopefully up your interior game and maybe feel a little less bad about how your build looks. Because I know that that's a big concern to a lot of people. I see it in a lot of Facebook groups where people get down on themselves because they don't necessarily know what to do. So I'm hoping these basic tips will really help you out. So the 3 basic tips I have for you are walls, furniture, and accents. When it comes to walls, don't be afraid to use blocks like honey blocks, or amethyst blocks, kelp blocks, or back here we've got melon and pumpkin. Don't be afraid to use blocks that maybe you haven't necessarily thought about as building blocks. And I know that can sound a little confusing. Basically what I mean is, don't be afraid to use blocks that you never really thought about as wall texture for interior wall sections. Like you'll notice I have this little amethyst accent wall, and it brings a little bit different color variation to this room with the dark green from the kelp blocks, and then the honey blocks I have over here in the kitchen area. You can also go through, now that we have these new fancy chiseled bookshelves, and do something like this for a nice study interior, where I have used chiseled bookshelves but the side texture to kind of make a wainscoting up on the top, and then I have empty bookshelves all around the room. By using different wall textures and different variations of colored blocks in your walls, you may notice that it really does start to make the interior pop. So once you have your walls in, that's when you need to walk around your space again for a second time and think about furniture. So if this was real life, which obviously it isn't, but if it was, where would you put things like a little catch-all table near the front entryway door? Or maybe you have a little stand here for a little potted plant. Or maybe you have a nice little corner desk here in the bedroom, or a dresser. It's little accents like this, like a little alcove, or then in here, I've got this little kind of grandfather clock thing going on here, and then a little usable desk, where you can literally sit in the cart, and if you had a book and quill here, you'd be able to sit and write to your heart's content. And then out here in the dining room, we've got a big table area for sitting and having meat and coffee in the morning. And then we've got our little cooking station over here with our fireplace and our little workstation area and a little sink area. By thinking about furniture as if it was a real building, you may notice that it's also going to help the interior feel more alive. Obviously, this is just the block game that we all know and love, but by thinking about it in terms of real life use and utility, and adding in things where you think in real life they would be, like a nice little counter, you're going to notice that things are going to start feeling more alive. So now that you've got walls out of the way, and you've got furniture in place, you've got to really think about accents. So accents to me are adding potted plants around, using paintings, adding in different colored carpets, and then doing things like having a nice armor stand, or maybe some potted plants, either using a dead bush in a pot with leaf blocks above it, like in here, or using a little azalea saplings and leaf blocks like I have out here. By just doing little accents like this, using invisible item frames to make it look like you have stuff sitting out on the counter, or just using empty flower pots to make them look like coffee mugs. It's all these little accents that really make things come together. When you add depth and variety to your walls and your counters and areas like that, it really makes it feel more alive. And I know I've been saying that a lot in this episode, but really that's what it all boils down to, is making sure that you're being cohesive with your interior by making sure that you add all these different little accents, but also don't go overboard. You don't want to go too hog wild and add too much stuff where it might start to feel cluttered. So I guess my only other little tip I have, which I didn't say at the beginning of the video, is roofs, or I guess ceiling sections. Don't be afraid to have a little excess room in the roof section of your build, because if you have a little extra room, you're able to do kind of angled ceilings or accented ceilings like this, and it'll also add a little more oomph to your build. A lot of people might not look up, but for those ones that do come into a build and like to examine every little nook and cranny, I'm looking at you, Lord Bird. If you add in accents into the ceiling as well, it's going to really tie everything together. Plus you can do stuff like this and add light blocks into the ceiling, and then you don't necessarily have to worry about spamming torches or lanterns all over the place. It can be hard to strike a balance and make sure that you're adding accent and variety to your build to make things really pop. And don't be afraid to ask, comment, or anything if you need any more tips or tricks. The Minecraft community can be a wonderful place, and it's always lovely to be able to help others kind of up their game and maybe feel less down on themselves. It takes a while to find your groove. It can also take a while to find your voice or your style of building. So by taking some of these tips and tricks and maybe applying your own style or your own color choices or your own kind of flavor for the way you like to do things, you may seriously surprise yourself. And that's a wonderful feeling. Just believe in yourself, take these tips and tricks I've shared today in this short video, and hopefully you'll be able to get to a point where you feel more confident in your building and more confident in your interiors, because it really does not take a lot. You just gotta believe in yourself, like I believe in you. And I know that sounds cheesy, but I genuinely do believe in you all. I believe in you all the same way I believe in myself. So you've got to try believing in your skill, and if your skill's not there yet, just allow yourself the grace and the time to try and figure it out, and never be afraid to ask for help. That's what the Minecraft community's here for. But I think that's enough rambling. My voice is getting a little hoarse from doing all this yapping, so I hope everyone has a wonderful day and a beautiful tomorrow, and I will see you in the next video. Take care of yourselves, guys. Later.